Nigella's come to the Imperial War Museum in London.
His application.
Curator of the Holocaust Exhibition, Bergen-Belsen, has found some documents about Felix.
Application for registration in the Officers' Emergency Reserve in His Majesty's Land Forces.
Yes.
And then, when they ask for any other information, he says he has a thorough knowledge of staff administration in the bakeries, kitchens and restaurants of J. Lyons and Co. Limited, thorough practical and technical knowledge of catering factory management and control, knowledge in the purchasing of commodities.
So he signed up?
So he signed up, that's right.
At the outbreak of World War II, Felix became an officer at Aldershot, where the Army School of Catering was based.
So he was in the Catering Corps. Do you have anything you can show me to say whether, you know, he was part of the force that was at Belsen?
Well, we've got here your grandfather's service records, which we can look at. On the 1st of July 1944, he embarks with 2nd Army at Southampton as a catering advisor. So obviously supporting the troops that went over on D-Day and fought up through Northwest Europe. Then he returns to the UK, but then goes back again to Northwest Europe on the 14th of January 1945 and stays there through until the 5th of June 1945. Well, Belsen was liberated on the 15th of April 1945, so certainly the dates fit.
Yes.
Bergen-Belsen in northwest Germany was the first Nazi concentration camp to be liberated by British troops. On arrival at the camp, the soldiers discovered 10,000 dead. But there were also 50,000 survivors who had endured disease and starvation.
It's strange, really, isn't it, to see it on that bit of paper. It's like it fits the puzzle, and it's the missing time.
If there is this family memory that he saw a concentration camp, it's very likely was Belsen. And as he was fairly senior within the Catering Corps, it's very likely that his advice was sought on how to improve the supply of food to Belsen. And certainly that was a crucial thing for the army at that stage.
Quite a thing to come out of the kitchens of, you know, Lyons tea rooms and go into Belsen.
Nigella, if you'd like to have a seat here, we've got some documents out of the archive for you to have a look at, and they're all accounts by people who went to Belsen. You might find it interesting just to read what the impressions of those people were.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Suzanne. This vicar's writing about Belsen, saying, you know, he felt that he ought to write this partly because something seems to tell me that many may say it's a flight of my imagination. This camp has dealt in one commodity in a very large way. That commodity is death.
I am the Reverend T.J. Stretch. I've been here 8 days, and never in my life have I seen such damnable ghastliness. This morning we buried over 5,000 bodies. We don't know who they are. Behind me you can see a pit which will contain another 5,000. There are 2 others like it in preparation. All these deaths have been caused by systematic starvation and typhus and disease, which have been spread because of the treatment meted out to these poor people by their SS guards and their SS chief.
Well, it's awful. It's what the organisation, and especially of food, to organise and run camps was no mean task. Feeding was a big difficulty because the shortage of staff made it more than difficult to ensure that everyone was found and fed. Many of the inmates would wander away from the huts and then be too weak to return, with the result that it was quite impossible to know if everyone had been found and fed.
After liberation, hundreds of starving inmates died every day. Many, when their collapsed stomachs rejected standard army rations. Special treatments were introduced. One, previously used in colonial India, was the Bengal famine diet, a thin gruel of water, milk, sugar, flour, and salt. But it was not enough to save an estimated 14,000 inmates who perished in the weeks after liberation. Though undoubtedly huge relief efforts, including those of the medics and the catering corps, saved thousands more. Finally, British troops destroyed the last remaining hut and prepared to pull out.
As for whether my grandfather had been to Belsen and seen that or not, in a way, for his sake, I kind of wish he hadn't seen it. My feeling is that he probably did go. It's awful in a way to think of going through that and then somehow be so convulsed by its awfulness not to be able to talk about it ever again. That was a tremendous thing to go through a whole life. I rather love it because I kind of think, what a look my mother had there, how great it is.
Lions was huge, but its success didn't last. In the 1980s, growing debts forced the family to sell assets.